Hey everybody, free response question here. This is a 2015 test, so a few years back, but it's a good question. It's kind of from Unit 1. It's just question 1 from 2015. I'll read it, go over how I would answer this, and talk about what parts of the class this is from. So, we have two large corporations, A and B. They hire new college grads, accountants at entry-level positions. In 2019, the starting salary was $36,000. That seems important. I should probably highlight it. It's $36,000. At each corporation, the data was collected from 30 employees who were hired in 2009 as entry-level accountants, and were still employed 5 years later. So the yearly salaries of the 60 employees in 2014 are summarized in the box plots below, which means the original salary was $36,000. That's like, somewhere right around there. And this is 5 years later. That's what this says. This is the box plots. We're tracking the 2014 ones. So in 2009, they were higher. Looks like these are outliers. This is their salary. So the first question says, write a few sentences comparing the distribution of yearly salaries. This is socs. Anytime it says write a few sentences comparing or write a few sentences describing, this is shape, outlier, center, spread. That's what you need to talk about. SOCS, shape, outlier, center, spread. So I'm going to go to their answer comparing these, and we'll see what it looks like. So part A, the median salary is approximately the same for both corporations. Yep, and you comparing them, you mentioned both of them. In fact, to do even better, I would say it's $50. The median salary about $50 is about the same for both corporations. The range and interquartile range of the salaries are bigger for A than for B. Also true, that's addressing spread, so we've addressed center and spread now. You can choose either one, range or interquartile range. Interquartile range is the better choice. It's just a better measure of spread, especially given outliers. But it looks like they'll accept either one. You don't need to do both. The two highest salaries at Corporation A are outliers, but Corporation B has no outliers. Alright, so we've got outliers, center, spread, and outliers also includes unusual features, but we can't see unusual features in a box plot. So, what about shape? Well, we'll talk about that in a sec, but basically, in a box plot, you cannot truly see the shape, so this is the best you can do. You can think it might be mound-shaped by what it looks like, but even that's a pretty big ask. So that's what this is. That's the answer to this one. So if you want to freeze your screen on the answer to A, freeze it now. You can read it, look back on it. Okay. For B, this is the good one for, A's standard 1B in my class. It's the beginning of the year. This is also the beginning of the year. This is about reading these box plots. So I drew a line at 36,000. We can even just keep it. There's a rainbow line. Someone's playing Rocket League apparently. And suppose both of these guys offered us a job as an entry-level accountant. What do we say? Why would we choose A? Why would we choose B? So let's give at least one reason. Well, a couple things to notice. Here's some upsides and downsides to Corporation A. There's someone here, because this graph's 5 years after hire. Someone's making $80, like an $80,000 a year, which is basically a $50,000 improvement after 5 years. That's huge. This person up here, that person's happy. But you also have this person down here who's still making $36,000 a year. So bigger upside, bigger downside. Whereas Corporation B, hey look, there's no one still at 36,000. Everyone got a raise. That's cool. So this is what we could say. We might choose A because it's got higher upside. If you're a really hard worker, you may want to be in Corporation A. Maybe they have more room for growth. Corporation B has this scenario where you're guaranteed a raise. So if Corporation B says, look, every single person in our corporation got a raise, that's pretty awesome. See what the official answers are. at least 3 out of 30 salaries at Corporation A are greater than the max at Corporation B. That's true. I mean, you got this point, this point, this point. They're all higher than Corporation B. So that's a good reason to accept. Or you may be able to make a higher salary. Any of those reasons that I said or these ones will all be good. For Part B, 5 years after, the minimum salary is higher in B than it is in A. That's true. The minimum salary is higher in B than A. So if you're just doing a straight up competition, B is going to win out on minimum salary. You could also see that this is talking about the whole raise thing too. Some people received a raise and some didn't. Okay, the last thing I'm going to talk about is how they're scoring this. So scoring Part A, the socs. You need to talk about, they include the 4 components: center, spread, outliers, and in context. That's really, really important. You have to talk about the corporations. You have to talk about salary. You need to know what we're talking about. You cannot just say Corporation A has a higher spread. Like, higher spread of what? Higher spread of salaries. So the context part is huge. Big, big deal. It's worth as much as these other ones. If it only has 3, you get a partial. If it's only got 2 of them, you'd be out of luck. Now, any other graph, you would want to mention shape, because of shape, outlier, center, spread, but you cannot determine shape from a box plot, so you don't say it. For Part B, it's essentially correct if you got relevant statistical measure and a relevant statistical comparison. You also have to talk about why it's relevant. So you just need to be thorough, and you're pretty much okay. In the second part of B, you also need to have a relevant statistical measure. So notice they actually talk about the dollar amounts. They talked about, in this one they talked about, there's a person in A that has a higher salary than person B, and it just goes down from there. So yeah, here's a really good free response question around box plots.